welcome to today's first Sunday of the month meditation. In this moment now, we breathe, inhale and exhale. Simply that, breathe. No controlling or forcing the breath. Simply inhale and exhale. If you desire to, you can soften your gaze. There's no need to keep your eyes open. There's no need to close them. They can be open, soft, breathe. Let your mind become aware of any body sensation. What does your body feel? The temperature? Is it hot? Is it cool? Is it cold? What do you feel? What does the atmosphere feel like? What aromas or odors do you smell? Do you smell food, flowers? Just become aware. Do you feel comfortable sitting or laying in your bed, wherever you are? What do you feel? Do you feel restless, irritable? What do you feel? So knowing that you may feel these several different things, in fact, let us switch to asking what will help us to feel pleasure, enjoyment, to feel fun, to feel good. What are those things? Let the thoughts pop up and identify, oh, that makes me feel good. That feels pleasurable. That's enjoyable. Allow that list to form. Identify those various things that help you to find pleasure, to feel pleasure. What makes you laugh? Something funny, but what does that mean? Maybe it's watching the television show Carol Burnett, and you watch and see how the actors and characters interact, and you laugh. Notice, be aware. Maybe it's watching dogs and cats play, and you laugh. You find enjoyment watching them. There are all kinds of things, foods that you enjoy that are delicious, beverages that you enjoy, maybe coffee or tea. What helps you? What inspires you to feel pleasure, to feel fun? What gives you the space to engage in orgasmic bliss? What moves you in that way? While breathing, remind yourself, we remind ourselves that we now have an opportunity. Every moment is an opportunity to choose. Sometimes things happen in life, you may be working and there's stress and anxiety. I don't have time to enjoy life. I don't have time to laugh. I have to focus on this. And yet, it is important to understand that rest, joy, peace, and healing, each of these things and more, they are forms of resistance. We resist the temptation or the tendency, we resist the refusal for ourselves to be happy. Working is fine, but being able to also engage in activities of joy and bliss, peace, things that help us to feel joy and peace, love are also important. And we need not do something huge, something major. Simple things are sufficient. Whatever that is that helps us to find pleasure in life. And that means we enjoy God. Enjoying life, finding pleasure in life, we find joy and pleasure in God, joy and pleasure in ourselves, joy and pleasure in our body, joy and pleasure in our wholeness. So for the next few moments, we will simply breathe, letting our mind, our feelings come into alignment as we understand that we have this opportunity to choose. Even when there is pain, what are we invited to do to help reduce the pain? Doesn't matter how much, even if it's reduced by a tiny bit, that too is fine. We need not suffer. We need not accept the pain as it is. We can provide ourselves the opportunity, even if a little bit, to lessen the pain, to have more joy, to lessen the worries, and have more love, even if a little bit more love, to lessen hatred and anger, whatever that is. What can we do? What can we provide ourselves in this moment as we simply breathe? We let this come to our mind and we breathe. Now, as we inhale and we exhale, take this moment as a reminder of our wholeness, as a reminder of our perfection, as a reminder of our completeness. That divine trinity, wholeness, perfection, and completeness, is a demonstration of our oneness. This breath anchors us right now, in this moment, because we can't breathe yesterday's breath. We can't breathe tomorrow's breath. We can't inhale for yesterday or tomorrow. We can only breathe, inhale now, exhale now. That's it. Even the idea of holding a breath for some time later, I'll breathe later. We can't. We breathe now. That idea is even ludicrous. This moment now, this breath now, right here now, that's it. And we understand that whatever we call God, that presence is here right now. As in, through each one of us. A gentleman by the name of Meister Eckhart once said, between that which is God and between that which is me, there is no between. In other words, there is only that which God is, infinite oneness, that is showing up as each one of us. So as this meditation prepares to come to an end, we let that understanding of our wholeness, perfection, and completeness become deeply embodied, aligned, so we understand that truth is who and what we are. That wholeness, perfection, and completeness is here as us right now. It's not something we have to earn. We don't have to earn our wholeness, perfection, and completeness. We don't have to work for it. It's already mine. It's already yours. So breathe and be aware. So we prepare our awareness for today's Sunday message, the lesson. We allow our minds to be open, our hearts to be open, our spirit and soul to be open, available, ready and willing to evolve more and more and more. And we allow that impact to move and change the collective consciousness to such a degree that we develop, we establish, we build and manifest a world that works for all. So it is. Amen. Ashe. Aho. Much love. Namaste.
Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I am the founder and the spiritual director. Now, as you are sitting there joining us, you may have questions, any number of questions, such as, who am I? How did I get here? Spiritually integrated arts means what exactly? What is a teaching center? Well, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is that? What does that even mean? Or New Thought, or religious science, or science of mind and spirit? You may have any number of questions about this specific community, about the parent organization, CSL, our philosophy, our teaching, our liberation theology. Any number of questions. Feel free to send an email. We look forward to connecting more and building our virtual community, our global community. And if you haven't connected yet on social media, feel free to do so. This is your invitation now. Also, did you know that all of our Sunday messages are archived on our YouTube channel? You can watch it anytime. Now, questions about anything, such as becoming a member. What does that mean? What does membership entail? And if you live somewhere far and already belong to a spiritual community, can you be a member of more than one? The simple answer is yes, you can. Just like you can shop at more than one grocery store, you can attend or be a member of more than one gym. We are building beloved community. So you can do both. You can be a member of both. You can be involved with both. That's what being in spiritual community means. So we welcome you. We invite you. We are so appreciative that you have found this community and that you have joined us today. We bless you. We love you. We welcome you. Live long and prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of our Sunday message. Love you. Connect with you soon. Blessings.
Namaste and greetings, and welcome to August. So, this month, we're talking about this idea of the unstatus quo. We often use the phrase status quo, same old, that group of, or that behavior that, etc. And today we are specifically talking about the impact of othering, but the theme for the month, unstatus quo. We have come to expect a status quo even within our spiritual communities. We tend to know what to wear. We have judgment around what other people wear. We have an understanding or an expectation of who we're going to see, a general understanding of what the topics will be or what they won't be. We have come to expect and understand and know that there's a certain kind of music and prayer, and we have an understanding of, because it's the same thing week after week. We've been conditioned. When we only operate in the status quo, however, we miss so much of the beauty and the growth that happens when we move outside of what we classify or judge as normal, outside of that which is standard or predictable. We step into a space that is beyond. We step into the mystery. We step into the place of growth and evolution, because that's precisely where the concept, the manifestation of a rich and thriving and beloved community exists. And within that, there's a variety of topics that are discussed, a variety of ideas, a variety of things and ways of accessing our spiritual truths. And often those things are the very things we avoid. We tend to deny them, we label them, and we classify them as secular, as inappropriate. We forget that these so-called taboo topics, that they show up in our spiritual communities regardless. They are there. And if we don't talk about them, we don't address them, what we are doing is we are isolating ourselves and isolating people because of these topics that we won't address. Topics like what, you ask? Well, sex. When was the last time you went to a quote unquote church, spiritual center, and sex was the topic? What about marginalization? That doesn't show up too often. Trauma or abuse, PTSD, depression, ableism, any form of addiction, shame, guilt, chronic illnesses, various things regarding mental health, racism, consent, the unhoused, poverty, food insecurity, politics. When were any of these actually discussed in our spiritual communities from the space of what is spiritual truth regarding them, rather than these are not subjects that we talk about in spiritual community, for they are not spiritual subjects? That's bad theology. We are all, in one way, shape, or form, impacted by all of those things, or we know someone who is impacted by any number of those things. And we all deserve, quote unquote, to have a grand rising. We all deserve to have that thing called health and well-being, not just simply get by. But if we want to thrive, we want to really expand and evolve, then we have to be willing to understand that there is nothing that is not possible to be talked about. Everything is on the table. Everything. Because when we ignore any of these things, to a certain degree, we are ignoring oneness. We are ignoring wholeness. And oneness is wholeness, which means there is no such thing as a taboo topic. Now, this idea of othering comes up quite a bit. So this week, we're going to talk about spiritual communities have an amazing and unique opportunity to be radically inclusive, welcoming, celebratory, and to honor diversity. Breathe. Yes, we can honor, not just include people, but we can recognize their diversity and celebrate it and honor it. Instead, when we look around, we tend to see people who look, act, think in very similar ways to us. I mean, look around any general spiritual community. It has often been said that church is the most segregated day of the week because the black folks go to church there and the white folks go to church there, and etc. So we tend to congregate with those who look like us, think like us, act like us, eat like us, etc. And yet this week we are invited to begin to dissect the phenomenon that we refer to as othering. And if we truly believe in and practice oneness, then we must also begin to include those topics, those ideas, those areas of subject matter that have traditionally been excluded. And by openly discussing the unstatus quo topics, the taboo topics, we extend a sincere invitation to those who are directly impacted by such things as racism, homophobia, homomisia, etc., incarceration, grief, sadness, fat shaming, food insecurity, and more. We bring the entirety of the human experience into our spiritual community. That's how we heal. That's how we evolve. So through the application of Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 principles, we aim to uplift, to support, and to nurture every individual in their grand rising and their evolution into their ever greater yet to be. Breathe. Dr. Holmes says, each person is a center of self-conscious life. God is the life principle animating us. While this life principle is forever hidden from our objective view, we are continuously conscious of its existence in us and animating all of nature. The relationship between the life principle, God, and that which it sustains is self-evident. Unity. The highest perception of humankind has been our sense of this inner oneness with the Spirit. Breathe that in. So when we talk about this idea of other, what are we talking about? Because once again, like if we go back, each person is a center of conscious, self-conscious life. God is the life principle animating all of us. Even those inanimate objects, a pen, it doesn't move on its own accord. And yet, if we zoomed in close enough to see the atoms and the molecules, they're in motion. So that which is God, that which is spirit, even animates, quote unquote, inanimate object. It's all there is. So when we talk about other or othering, let's get some clarity on what we're talking about. So when we reference other, are we talking about it as an adjective, a pronoun, or a verb? Well, let's go in. As an adjective, it denotes a person or a thing that is different or distinct. Okay. Something that is different or distinct, such as highlighters. One of them is different and distinct. One is pink, one is green. So if I hand you this one and you say, no, hand me the other one, because it's different, it's distinct. Which battery do you want? The AAA or the AA? They're distinct, different sizes, they're distinct, they're different amounts of energy. Then we have as a pronoun, a person or thing that is different or distinct. Same thing, got that from before. A further or an additional person. Okay. Now you'll notice there are several common words in here. Different, distinct, different from, opposite, additional. Now, in and of itself, none of these things represent anything, quote unquote, that's not life affirming as a verb. Now, when we get to how we view or treat someone, we can treat them, you are intrinsically different from Tracy, and I are intrinsically different from each other. We're not the same person. We may have certain similar likes. We both like NCIS Hawaii, which is canceled by CBS. We both enjoy that show. But our enjoyment, our mutual enjoyment of that television program doesn't mean we're the same person. We each different from, unique from. So even in how we view or treat, in and of itself, isn't a non-life affirming thing. It's when we judge the other as less than or worse than. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32 says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other. See, if othering was the issue, then it would be an issue here. But it's not. Be kind, be compassionate, and forgive each other. The etymology of another, not this one, and it's not the same as, it's someone or something else. Be kind and compassionate to that person who is not you. They are another individualized expression of. Be kind, be compassionate to them. Because of our tribe mentality, we tend to congregate with those who are most like us and vilify those who are not like us. If there is a group of Christians, which I once was, anything that was not Christian had to be of the devil, therefore was bad, wrong, evil. So that included Buddhism, Zen, martial arts, and more. But why? Why are we not able to say, this is my belief, and you are entitled to your own? And we can still be kind and be compassionate and forgive one another for whatever occurs, rather than vilify one another. or vilify the other. So even here within New Thought, we are invited to say, because often we will still other. We won't refer in the same kind of way, but we will refer to as, oh, well, we're not like them. We are Christian, but not like those Christians. We're New Thought. We're metaphysical Christians or some whatever, right? We don't talk about being science of mind, lest we be confused with Scientology. So, because we don't want to be othered and lumped into that group, we get defensive or evasive rather than being crystal clear that there is another path, and this is the path that some people have chosen. I haven't chosen it. And when talking to you, I am very clear. This is my path. This is my practice. It's not that. And the manner in which I speak about it, I am very clear. But I need not vilify, even if for me, that's a cult. But as someone once said, no one purposefully joins a cult. So even them joining that particular path, they did it from a mindset that potentially is the same mindset as to why I joined whatever it is I joined. Can we be kind and compassionate and forgiving? Because for as long as we continue to push the other as the enemy, then we are going to continue to be divisive. When other simply means someone else, an additional person. We need another person to join the group to get the ticket discount for the Broadway show. We need one other person. Is that other person, are we othering them by referring to them that way? We need one other person who is a senior. Are we othering them? No, we are simply identifying that they are a different or an additional, they are someone else that comes into the group for a certain purpose. Each of these people is hugging and being hugged by someone other than themselves. As 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8 says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins. Sins simply meaning errors, mistakes, and non-life affirming choices. Love covers over, love heals, love forgives a multitude of non-life affirming choices, errors, mistakes. But above all, love each other deeply. So once again, othering isn't in and of itself the issue. It's what that word, what that practice has come to mean. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 22. Since you have purified your souls by obedience to the truth, so that you have a genuine love for your brothers, get to that in a second. Love one another deeply from a pure heart, brothers. Love for your siblings, love for your neighbor, love for your whomever, beyond gender. It is someone with whom you are akin. Love one another deeply from a pure heart. Because it is from that energy of love that we are then able to heal. Because we are acting with kindness and compassion. Dr. Holmes says, While all people have the same origin, no two people are alike except in the ultimate or absolute essence. A person, each person, is an individualized center of God consciousness and spiritual power, as complete as they know themselves to be. And they know themselves only as they comprehend their relationship to the whole. Now, to clarify, even no matter to what degree I know myself as this individualized center of God consciousness, suppose I do not know it. I still am it, right? A person is an individualized center of God consciousness and spiritual power completely right now. And they will experience that spiritual power and the truth to such degree as they know themselves to be that which it is. That there is only one infinite wholeness that cannot be separateness from itself. And it is in that wholeness that I understand and comprehend who and what I am, which then informs how I move and navigate through life. To what degree do we recognize that for ourselves and for others? For example, how many planet Earths are there? There is one, right? Oneness, wholeness, one Earth, one planet. Yet on this one Earth, one planet, there are multiple continents, still one planet, multiple countries in those continents, still one planet. So one continent called Africa, made up of many different nations, countries, but still one continent, still one Earth. And within, even there, we go deeper, we find of these various nations, there are varied flags, but they're all using some variation of the same color spectrum. One color spectrum that creates all of these vast arrays of flags which identify and separate nations and cultures, even though there is still only one humanity, there is only one Earth, there's only one whole, wholeness, completeness. In the same way that if you walk down, there is only one beach, there is only one sandcastle, one desert. But is the beach and the desert and the sandcastle, are they not made up of various individual single grains of sand? But it takes all of the individual sand grains, granules, to create one beach, one sandcastle, one desert. But there is still only one. So what sense does it make to other when in the absolute? Or should I say, what sense does it make to other in a non-life affirming way when the other is simply another individualized expression of God? One universe, one galaxy with various planets and stars and asteroids and stuff, one sun, etc. One, even though it's demonstrating and showing itself as various expressions of that oneness. Dr. Holmes says, God is life, not some life, but all life. God is action, not some action, but all action. God is power, not some power, but all power. God is presence, not some presence, but all presence. God is pure spirit filling all space. And that space that it is filling is also God. It has to be, because there is only that which God is. So now our invitation is, when we see another that is not like us, doesn't think like us, doesn't operate like us, can we still see the oneness that is God, even operating through, with, it's still God. They are still God. You are still God. I am still God. God is all there is. So how do we both and? How do we see other, but understanding oneness? I'm going to paint one room red and that other room or the other bedroom green. One house, one apartment. Even though there are two separate rooms, do I still understand and operate knowing that two separate rooms are still under one roof, under one house, under one apartment? Two separate ideologies. There's still only one God, one power, one presence, one operating force. So even though diametrically opposed, how do I utilize my understanding of wholeness and oneness to affect change so that their non-life affirming behaviors, ideologies, whatever, may be transformed and healed? Because for as long as I vilify them, that's not going to be the work. You have to get over the fear of facing the worst in yourself. You should instead fear unexamined racism. Remember those diametrically opposed? Fear the thought that right now you could be contributing to the oppression of others and you don't know it. But do not fear those who bring that oppression to light. Do not fear the opportunity to do better. And I'm not going to attempt to pronounce their name because at this present moment, I don't remember the pronunciation. So I'm not saying it. But you see who it is. So this idea of different ideologies, we are invited to look at, where do I have implicit bias? Because that implicit bias is what creates the non-life affirming expression of othering. I have to examine my life, my mental equivalent. I have to be willing to excavate, to dig, to search, to find, to understand. Because this thing called racism or gender bias or any number of things show up in a lot of different places. And if we're not willing to examine within ourselves, within our relationships, within our shopping practices, then we may not realize that we are contributing to. For example, someone says that this company contributes to anti-LGBTQ practices and policies. That this company is helping to create anti-LGBTQ policies and practices in various nations of Africa. Now, there's a moment where I don't know that right now. But the moment someone tells me, did you know that Chick-fil-A supports anti-LGBTQ? No, I didn't know. But now that I do know, Do I continue to be a patron? Do I continue to bring my dollars and cents to that company, knowing that they are using that money to fund? Then how am I contributing to the hurt and harm of others? This is why it is important for us to have a deep understanding of ourselves and how we live, move, and have our beingness in the world, and how we may be contributing to gender bias and not realize it. How we may be contributing to anti-trans, transmesia ideologies and practices and not even realize it, even within our theology. Because see, when we gender God, and God is always he, him, his, that is perpetuating the idea of the patriarchy, which then denies that which is the feminine. Even when we still break it into the duality of Father, Mother, God, what does it say to those who are non-gender conforming, gender fluid, gender rich, etc.? Because this is beyond the binary. So even by saying Father, Mother, hello, ladies and gentlemen, what about that group of people who don't identify as either or neither of those? These are unconscious ways that we contribute to the non-life affirming energy of othering. So our invitation referencing this is to get real clear, like scientists. Go into the laboratory of our classes, our discussion groups, our study groups, conversations, and really go into the space of what does it mean for us to identify the conditions and the symptoms of all of these things? What does racism and sexism, etc., what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? And how do we identify the mental equivalents that create homomisia, white supremacy? How do we examine the ways to heal and deconstruct and then reconstruct? Deconstruct what is non-life affirming, what is not healthy, what is harmful, and reconstruct in ways that are more equitable and just, compassionate. How do we shift? How do we evolve? How do we implement a treatment plan? We have to get real clear on when do I other? When do I ostracize and push away other versus embrace and attract and pull in other? Sarah Schulman says, nothing disrupts dehumanization more quickly than inviting someone over, looking into their eyes, hearing their voice, and listening to them. Where are you invited to listen more deeply? Where am I invited to listen more deeply? And what I'm talking about is listen to the Klansmen with such clarity that you hear the dis-ease that is running rampant in their mental equivalent. Listen, because the words that are being spoken may not, and usually don't, identify what is at the core of their consciousness that is outpicturing as this dehumanization of another. When I vilify the other, do I even understand? Do I listen to myself enough to know what's going on that's causing that? Because if I don't, then my invitation is to get still, get quiet, and listen. Why do I not like them? And can I not like their behavior their ideology? Can I separate the being from the doing and understand that this being is still an individualized expression of God? And because they do not understand and they do not know this, it causes them to act in a certain way. Can I be kind and compassionate and forgiving of the individualized expression of God to such a degree that I'm able to offer a healing treatment, even if I never speak to them? Can I still offer a healing treatment to that consciousness, to their awareness, to their understanding? Ada Palmer says, it doesn't take a declaration or an invasion to start a war. All it takes is an us and a them, and then a spark. An us and a them is all it takes to start a war. It's a 9. No, it's not. It's a 6. War. It's a circle. No, it's not. It's a triangle. No, it's not. It's a square. Us versus them and war. And if we are willing to listen deeply, as we've been invited to do, then we are able to step back and say, why, what's going on? How does this person see a 6? And through the listening, oh, that's why they see a circle or a square or a 6. And now that I understand that, it changes how I interact with them. We see things not as they are, but as we are. Our perception is shaped by our previous experiences. And we say often in Science of Mind and Spirit, we are not bound by precedent, previous experiences, but by principle, the truth. So when we talk about we see things not as they are, truth, but as we are in our perceptions, or the truth of our perceptions, because of both of these individuals, they're accurate. What they perceive is true to them from their vantage point. But there is an even bigger capital T truth that we are invited to listen from and act from. Bell Hooks says, there can be no love without justice, which we have heard similarly. Dr. King said, power without love is reckless and abusive. And love without power is sentimental and anemic. Dr. Cornel West says, tenderness is what love looks like in private. Justice is what love looks like in public. So when we're talking about this idea of othering, we have to include love. We have to include our spiritual practices. We have to include equity and justice. And this is why I have this on the slide. Dr. Holmes wrote a book called Love and Law. And one of the things he said as he approached his transition was that he spoke a lot about law and not nearly enough about love. So our invitation, if you ever get a chance, I invite you to read the book. So our invitation is both and, love and law, not love or law, but both and. So rather than other, I don't know any transgender people, so I vilify them. Why? Just because you don't know them, why vilify them? Why not extend the opportunity to say, while I do not know anyone personally, I am willing to invest, I am willing to listen because I understand that they too are individualized expressions of God. So even though I don't know any personally, I'm willing to. And I am still able to have empathy when I see the number of anti-transgender laws being proposed and or passed. So while I do not know anyone personally, I listen. And with this love that is justified, this love that is justice, this love that is equitable, even though I don't know anyone personally, I stand in truth and engage in a treatment plan that is healing. And when we know what science of mind and spirit is, we practice it and we live it as a way of life. We not only understand oneness, but we recognize and appreciate how oneness shows up as all of the diversity in our experience, all of the diversity in existence itself. We behave accordingly, both and. You and I, both and. Which is why I'm sure you've often heard me say, unless you're new, you've heard me say the story, Cain and Abel, and God says, "Where's your brother?" Because Cain kills Abel. Am I my brother's keeper? And I say, am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper? Am I my non-gender conforming, gender fluid, gender rich, non-binary siblings keeper? No, I am not them. They are not me, but they are. We. I am them, and they are me in that aspect of infinite oneness. In other words, I am not them. Like Tracy, I'll use Tracy. I am not Tracy, but I am, because there's only one. And when I understand both and, while we are two unique, separate individuals, there is that which can never be separate from itself. And so we are one, even while being two. So even though you are you and I am me, there is the energy that we, both different people with different experiences and different individualized expressions of our oneness, our wholeness, and our completeness, even though separate, we are one. Even though binary or dual, we are one, because there is only one wholeness. That which is the house, God, source, spirit, can never be divided. Because of how we embody science of mind and spirit, we are aligned in life-affirming ways with the balance and harmonious order and operation of love and law. And it is this embodiment of love and law in balance that enables us to then create a life and create a world that truly works for all. When I can see myself in the other, namaste, that which is the divine, in, through, and as me, sees itself in you. Both and. Breathe. This week's declaration, I'll say it first, and if you agree, if you are aligned with it, say it with me on the second go round. I step into action to create an inclusive world together. I step into action to create an inclusive world. Now, excuse me, if you're creating an inclusive world like you just declared, then ask yourself, how would I respond, or how would my community respond to the following? An older, cisgender, heterosexual, white man comes in and they are wearing a MAGA hat and a Trump t shirt. How does your community respond? How do you respond? A non binary, pansexual student who is on government assistance and they're in a wheelchair, they show up. How do you respond? How does your community respond? An undocumented migrant worker who spends the majority of their paycheck, who sends the majority of their paycheck home to their family who currently reside in another country. How do you respond? How do you see them? How do you view them? How do you treat them? What about your community? What about an unhoused woman with mental health challenges and drug addiction? Or what about a Hispanic family of 7 and the parent only speaks Spanish? A young Black man who keeps to himself, doesn't want to be touched, and he struggles with engagement. How do you respond to any of these? And how does your community? Because if we are truly going to create a world that works for all, then we really need to start treating people in a way that truly demonstrates the working. This week's study questions. When have you ever felt othered? What was the thing that caused the othering? Was it your race, your gender, something else? How did you respond to the situation? And how did it feel? Number 2, when have you othered someone? How did you other them? How did you exclude them? Did you not speak to them? Did you bully them? What did you do? And what was the thing that made them other? Was it their political affiliation or race, their sexual orientation, their religion? And how did you feel when you othered them? Number 3, when was the last time you were wrong about someone? How did you discover that you were in fact wrong? And how did you feel? And what did you do once you found out, I'm wrong? They're not. They don't. I'm wrong. How did you feel? And what did you do? And then lastly, how can you practice being inclusive of people who are not like you in one way or another? Doesn't matter how it is that they're not like you. You may not be in a wheelchair, they may be, or vice versa. How do you include different languages, socioeconomic background, whatever it is? How can you practice being more inclusive of people in general, in one way or another? Breathe. Simply anchoring into this divine awareness that there is only one power and one presence, the all that is, the infinite wholeness itself, the absolute oneness itself, showing up as billions and trillions and zillions of grains of sand, yet still oneness. Blades of grass, oneness. Stars in sky, oneness. Faces of each and every person in humankind, oneness. And so as I speak this knowing, trusting, believing, and acting upon the both and oneness and the multitude of wholeness and the multitude of. And because I am able to operate from the both and, I become the very healing presence that connects and unifies, heals divisiveness, opposition when the opposition is based upon perception, based upon non-life affirming othering. And I engage in that which is life affirming othering, which says, wow, you speak this other language. I honor you. I celebrate you. I include you. Even if it means simply me learning how to say hello in your language as a first step. Recognizing and knowing that this infinite oneness, this one life, living itself, creating itself, birthing itself, manifesting itself as all that is, oneness, wholeness. So I speak this knowing that that is the power and that is the presence and that is the very thing that heals and creates peace on earth, goodwill to all. That is the thing that heals toxic capitalism, toxic patriarchy, white supremacy, and more. And so I anchor deeply to this truth and this spiritual principle that is God itself, life itself, love, kindness, compassion, forgiveness, harmony, balance, unity. It is all of that and so much more. And knowing that that is what it is, and knowing that that is the energy that I speak this prayer from, and as I know that that energy is already right now rippling throughout all of creation. Even that is even that which has yet to be created, that which is fully formed in the mind that is God, but has not taken form in this three-dimensional realm. It is no less real. If it exists in the mind that is God, it is fully formed and fully functioning. It is real. It is a fact. It is truth. And the law says yes. So I anchor and align to that, knowing that that is not just my truth, not just my principle, not just my practice, but that as I say this about me, it is the truth, it is the principle, it is the practice for all of us. And the law says yes, that means it's already done. That means the prayer, the treatment is already in motion. It is already answered. It is already showing up as me and as each person gathering here today. That which is the amen is our life. That which is prayer is our life. For we don't simply do prayer. We live it. We breathe it. We be it. So it is. So it is. Namaste, blessings, greetings. See you over in Zoom if you are joining us. And if not, see you next week. Or Wednesday if you're joining for Wednesday or Thursday.